Hello, good evening. Welcome to the stream. I'm Rolly, and I'm your creative guide for this evening. And I'm just checking everything's working. Let me keep rolling here one sec. I hope you're well. Please let me know in the chat. I've just made a complete mess here. Give me a second. Oh, and I'm out of focus. Good evening, I'm Rolly, and I'm your creative guide. And I hope you're well. Note to self, pour your water out into your glass before you get started. I have sparkling water, so it kind of went everywhere. But thankfully, it's only water. We're all good. I see there's at least one or two people watching, so I'd love to hear in the comments where you're watching from. Thanks for sticking with me through my bloopers, because obviously this is real and not AI, because what AI bot would do that. The thing I want to talk about today is the fact that I jumped on a call with somebody yesterday. Really, really interesting, wonderful, creative, who had shared my video on LinkedIn and was like, hey, I was like, hey, if you'd like to chat sometime, like, let's jump on a discovery call. It'd be cool to kind of find out what you're up to, what you're working on. And I was totally blown away because the first thing she jumped up with was, she pulled her like vision board, 4 different things off her fridge of the things that she wanted to build out and get involved in. Super exciting, really passionate, clearly very talented. And as we went through the call, she kept pulling, oh, let me show you this. She disappeared off camera and grabbed something. And she disappeared off camera and she went into a cabinet behind her and pulled out not just one, but 2 published real books, fully designed, fully written, fully done. But then she admitted that she'd only sold them to 20 or 30 friends. She had a domain name for one of them. It could completely be its own business and thing in a creative realm that she has loads of experience in, has worked at with big household name companies, but yet her own work is not really out in the world. I mean, there's little bits and pieces of it. And she's not stuck because she can't finish something or she can't make it. She's stuck because there's a difference between something being done and something being seen. And I think for creatives like us, we're wired like that way. And that gap can swallow years and years and years. And it kind of, after that call, I went downstairs and I started making dinner, and I was literally racking my brain thinking about almost all of the people I've worked with. And even like last week in the stream, I was saying most of the people I work with, have some level of diagnosed or undiagnosed neurodiversity. But then I've been thinking about it, more and more of the people I'm working with actually have a project. I literally picked up a book that one of my other creatives that I work alongside, I picked it up and showed her and said, he's got this book out there. but he doesn't market it, he doesn't sell it, and it's a marketing book. But it's that idea of the cobbler's children don't have any shoes. Like the idea of putting your energy, your expertise around marketing, wherever your area of expertise lies, and putting that out into the world just seems, it's so hard to do. It's so hard to do because it's our thing. You'll happily do it for somebody else, 100%. Very happily show up, uh, work for that other person, because it's a job, it's a transaction, it's there's deadlines, there's impetus, and it's just hard to engage it. And I was also thinking about the fact that that's me. I've got tons of work that's not out there. And like I've said before, I've tried all the productivity systems. And it's not that I'm stuck starting. I start all the time. I start new things all the time. I dream up business ideas all the time. And part of that is the way ADHD works. And part of that is just how we show up in the world and how we're wired. We're wired for, like, the dopamine centers in our brains don't work in the same way as other people. So we need different levels of engagement and all that stuff about, you need to have a deadline, like you need to have it feel important and like you've got to do it. That doesn't exist when it's your own work. And it's interesting because, like, and certainly I've made videos about the fear of failure. And this is very close to the fear of failure, but it's not the fear of failure. A term that I've come to know, and this is not part of, like, psychologists. It's not in the psychologist book. It has been coined by Dr. Dobson, and it's rejection sensitive dysphoria. And it basically means that if something comes along that could feel like rejection, you have a disproportionate reaction to it. And, like I've said it before, like, I'm not a clinician, I'm not trained in this stuff. I'm just passing on the knowledge that I'm picking up, and it's absolutely resonating and rocking my world. And what it is like, so the fear of failure is cognitive. You're kind of going, well, what if this doesn't work out? Whereas the rejection sensitive dysphoria, it's more like, if somebody criticizes this, it must means that I'm fundamentally flawed as a human being and as an artist. It's that deep. And because of the way our brains are wired, and like I said about those dopamine centers, it takes us so much longer to get over that. We're just sitting there stewing in it for days, weeks, months, maybe even years. And we hang on to the words that people say about us. And that's why, like I've said this before, that often people I talk to are have been hurt by somebody they love or trust, a teacher, family member, like someone they respect, kind of belittling, poo-pooing their art or their creative aspirations when they're younger. And that not only does it crush their ambition, but it just creates this resonance inside them, that when they think about that, when they push into that work, it's so much harder for them to be able to access it and address it and move forward. And it's really interesting because, like, from the research that I've seen, like, it suggests that about 70% of adults with ADHD experience this, so it's quite common. And it's just an emotional pain that just hits harder and lasts longer. And it's really intense. Like, and it's interesting because like my wife will absolutely attest to how defensive I can get. The slightest level of criticism. And she's the person I love and know the most in the whole world. And it's a safe place. But I do 100% hold my hand up and say I overreact on the regular, with the slightest indication of, something genuine. And I think that means that the reason that we sit in our studios, that we poodle about writing, painting, drawing, designing, playing, making music, coding, whatever it is that we're doing, we enjoy doing that in our space. Maybe we share it with some close friends who we know, or family members who we know might be able to give us a little bit of a critique on what we're doing, but they won't fundamentally be attacking us because we know through experience that they love and appreciate us and care for us. But the idea of releasing something out into the public invites judgment from strangers. And they've got zero attachment to you, zero investment in you, zero relationship with you, and that just is a complete threat to your identity. Not just that they'd say something, but it would get so deeply inside you. And I think for us as creatives and as artists, like, our work and ourselves are so fused together, that any criticism of the work feels like a criticism of you, of me. And that's why hitting publish can sometimes feel like stepping off a cliff. And it's so tough, and I totally acknowledge it. I see it and I get it. And, I'm there, and I've been there for years, and I've had loads of things that should have made it out into the world and haven't. And I bet if this resonates with you, I bet that's the same for you too. And this isn't a problem about what and it's not a skill problem. This is like a nervous system problem. It's not, something that can be solved by having a content calendar and a plan, and somebody telling you to just post it, makes you feel like it's a motivation problem. The amount of times that I felt like I was ungifted or untalented or unmotivated or lazy because I tried to force myself to do something without realizing that there was this whole dysregulation, just created a spiral of shame. I lost momentum and direction, and the sense of obligation to stick into a calendar or stick into some sort of post regime because it was mine. If it was somebody, if I was at work and they were like, "Hey, we got to put this video up," it'd be up, no problem, because it's under their name. Even if it was my face on it, even though I was talking to camera, I'd be like, "Well, that doesn't bother me at all. I'm very happy to talk to camera, as you can see." So it wasn't about that, and a normal accountability doesn't work either, because the idea of having to report to somebody, a team leader, a boss, just amplifies that and ramps up that fear. Because somebody might, if at the beginning it can feel helpful and useful to have somebody to be accountable to, but when things start to slip, maybe things aren't happening on time, it starts to feel like a threat. It starts to feel like it's getting in the way. It starts to feel like, oh, I'm going to have to go and tell my boss that what's happened or where I'm at. And that can just be, it compounds this issue altogether. And I think I used to think, and if you go back and watch some of the videos, like a lot of it was about like, hey, how to get started and how do we kind of build momentum. I've definitely made videos about like fear of failure, and I've put a lot of work into like kind of addressing the kind of building a finishing muscle. But the thing that I've really been coming to realize since my own identification and understanding of ADHD for myself is that it's part of how we're wired and part of how we are built together. But then it really starts to make sense in the fact that I call myself a creative guide because I've trained as a coach, but I just don't feel that the coaching modality is the right one to apply to creatives who are struggling with this, because it's not about accountability. It's about partnership. It's about us doing it together. It's about us learning and growing and understanding and sharing. And it's so much more like helpful to be vulnerable with people who understand you and get you. And maybe they're a little bit further along, or maybe they can share some expertise. And, but I do think I was onto something when I started telling people to make space for themselves and to tap into different ways to rest. Because I think one of the ways in which we can help ourselves, let's move on to things that we can do. So one of the things that we can really start to address is the nervous system dysregulation. It's how you feel. And it's not just taking a deep breath, it's actually starting to really understand and do things that are going to help you to down-regulate from those spirals. So rest is important. Not getting triggered by all the stuff on your phone, social media, the news. And they've been fundamental to the messaging I've had around my channel. I've also been telling you it's not about just putting a block in the calendar. It's not about the right to-do list or productivity system. And that also talks to the fact that as I've been going along, I've been learning and growing and adapting and thinking that it's so much closer to something that's real and it's deep. And by helping our bodies to learn to kind of lower our baseline and lower our reactivity, we're able to deal a little bit better with something that feels bad and lowering that down from the catastrophic highs of how that rejection can feel. So we're able to take that down, and that's part of the process. And then there's another thing we can do, which is like it's kind of like exposure therapy. And we need to do it slowly. So you do little by little, put a little thing out and a small thing. We'll do it together and we'll move it forward and we'll take steps in the right direction. And by realizing that your whole world doesn't collapse, people aren't coming to get you, people are actually saying nice things in the comments, that it's actually going to work out in the long run. And genuinely, like I said in the video I posted just today, I've put up 91 videos. It's probably more at this stage. And I've only had one comment that made me question what I do. It wasn't mean or cruel. It just hit me because of this sensitivity. And I moved on and I kept going, because I'm still putting up videos. And I've realized that it was a little bit like that. I had to gradually expose myself and be able to get it done. And the same thing, like even like last year when I started posting some of my music, like hundreds of people have listened to it, and loads of people have left comments saying that they love it and they really like it, and let's put some more out. And like I'm working towards that, And I know that it's not about going, oh, it'll be out by the end of March, because that's just going to be a deadline that's going to go right past me. but it is about building up to it and working alongside people and having other people to help. But one of the things that's really been helping me, and this is wild, because in September we started a kind of creative co-working call, and like over the past few months in February and March we've been calling it Parallel Play, and more people have been showing up, and it's been building and growing, and it's turning into this community, and more of us have something to put out into the world and being able to share it and being able to be there. And like, I host this and put it out, to offer this as a service to creatives, but like, it serves me too. Hands up, it serves me too. I need it. I need it to get things around my business done, to get my music recorded and processed and out there. But I also need the community, knowing that there are other creatives out there who care, who want their work to be live and show up in the world. It's a beautiful thing. So there's a link in the description if you want to jump in and join our Parallel Play. It's going to be on tomorrow, on Thursday afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. Morning if you're in the States. But next week, in April, I'm going to think about moving it to a different time. So maybe even a little bit later, and I might even have one a little bit earlier. So we might move a bit later to facilitate those on the West Coast, because it's current. Next week it'll be at 7 a.m. West Coast. So let's try and get it a bit more reasonable time, because there's definitely a few people joining in from there. Okay, so we'll keep going. I see there's at least one comment, and there's a chunk of you watching. So if you're watching, please put in the comments if this resonates with you and where you're watching from. Let me read Lynn's comment. As an artist with ADHD, I work with my son, who is also ADHD and an artist with many other talents. We do our best to love and support each other, yet there are times when we feel like the other doesn't care. Yeah, that's real. And sometimes that's hard, and that's part of it, feeling like that rejection, because you're not getting the sensitivity, the love and support that you need at the time when you're feeling jangly. You're starting to feel like this is tough. I don't know how to push through it. But like, I really do think that that's why we need to build up a community, to have some sense of connection and doing this together. Because I think that's another one, is being able to work alongside people is super important. But it also leads me directly to the point that the other realization I've had is that the work that I do isn't 6 sessions 1 week after another. It's much slower and much longer, because to start to learn to regulate your nervous system, to start to get intimate with yourself, to filter through the projects that you have and really start to understand what it is you really resonates with you, what you really want to put out in the world, as well as then starting to go to an idea of kind of graduated exposure, stepping into something new, and then being able to bring that and do that alongside other people. That takes time. So I have kind of reframed everything I'm doing into the idea of doing it as a 12-month program, but it's more of a partnership. It's not a course. There's an element of one-to-one, intimate, private work around that vulnerability. But then there's also an opportunity to work in a kind of group scenario, in a group setting. And I think that's really, really deep. So like, I think if any of this resonates with you and your work is made and it's not moving, it's not out there, it's sitting in a drawer or a shelf or in a cupboard, like, feel free to jump in and come along to the Parallel Play session tomorrow. I haven't quite changed the dates for next week, but they'll be there for next week as well. And there's also a link to sign up to do a locator quiz. And that's going to help you to figure out where exactly it is that you're stuck. But if this is resonating with you, then maybe this is where you're stuck, actually getting your work out there. Thanks for listening to me. And any more comments or questions in the chat? I'd love to hear from you. I know a few have been watching. So what's your art? What's your format? And where are you watching from? And where's my water? Okay. Right. And I even think sitting down and saying this and processing this is admitting that with some of my earlier videos, I was too much in that coach mentality. But I've been learning and growing in front of you. Like, you can go and watch my videos. You can see the development of my thought process and my thinking. And I imagine that this will continue to evolve over time as well. But right now it feels like the right thing to say. There isn't a quick fix. It's not a course that I can get you to download, Oh, Marilyn from New Zealand, thanks for tuning in. Oh, so cool. I'm glad you could. It's early for you over there. Thank you for watching. And yeah, so Marilyn says, I'm a painter living in New Zealand. A lot of my block has to do with capacity to create. And I think that comes back to two things that I kind of mentioned already. And one is either making space. So that could be that you've got too many things already filling up your life and you need to allow some space. And it's not just to create. You need to allow space to dream, to vision, to ruminate, to process, to get inspired, to feed yourself creatively, to go to gigs and art shows, to walk in nature, to walk on the beach, to walk around the beautiful mountains and scenery in New Zealand, and to let it in and let it sit. And then you just said there, yeah, mental space. And sometimes that can be really hard because we're full. Our lives are full. They're full of demands, they're full of expectations, they're full of our own dreams and hopes and where we want to be. They're full of trying to get a good night's sleep, trying to eat well, trying to exercise. But because we're creatives, expressing that creativity is such a fundamentally part of our own being and our own nature and our own way forward. And it's so important for us to do that because we can show up more fully and as the humans that we're meant to be. And then also I think it correlates then with the idea of finding the right type of rest for you. Rest's not just being going to bed, but you might need emotional rest. And that might be not watching fear-inducing TV shows or news, reading calm, inspiring, instructive books. It might mean stepping away from some relationships or creating boundaries. Like, there's lots of ways in which that can happen. It might be, being in touch with yourself through movement, through getting on a yoga mat, through working with a somatic practitioner to get in touch with what's going on inside as well. They're all super important parts of that. And because we're so connected and because we're so knit together and because our art and our creativity and ourselves are so intertwined, all of that expresses itself when we dip our nibs in the ink and our paintbrushes in the pots. And I think it's so valuable to be able to connect in and access that. Marilyn, if you want to take the quiz, then that'll give you some details. I'll get back to you some ideas, and then what I'll also do is I'll send you my starter kit and the there's another video and there's a PDF on the 7 types of rest as well. So if you take the quiz, I'll send that on to you as well. Andy is in the house. Andy from Switzerland, how are you, sir? And he's going to be around next week. Yeah, so he's got work, man. I know. And hopefully, Andy, like I said, I'm going to move the session a little bit later as well. So we'll do a later session on Thursday, maybe a different session on the week. And also, I think this live stream, it might change for April as well. So because the time zones are shifting here on Saturday, so things will shift around a little bit. And you're very welcome. And Andy, thank you so much for jumping in the past few sessions. And we will. Oh, so I love it. Andy's switching to a button phone, so a flip phone, to create some space. Yeah, less notifications. That is super important. It's like one of the things that I do in the regular is actually open up my phone, take 10 or 15 minutes to go through and audit the notifications, and I'm rigorous with not having it in my bedroom. But usually when I'm in the office here, I'll leave it in another room too. If I go out and walk the dogs or walk with my wife, like I always leave it here too as well. So I'm like, nothing's going to happen in the next 45 minutes to an hour that I can't deal with when I get back. It's taken a lot of discipline to continue to disconnect myself from that, but certainly going to a flip phone, that's the way forward. Well done, Andy. That's brave. Awesome. It's great to have you all here this evening. Thank you for watching. And I hope to see you all soon. I'll be in touch and we'll do this again. Love you all. You take care. And don't forget to stay creative.